Hi, my name is Philip Franks. I am the founder and creator of the Franks Report. Figure I'd do another episode of Away from the Charts. This is my time to sort of let my hair down, get out of the suit and tie, and kind of talk about some of these things that are impacting retail traders, in the past episodes I've talked about, psychology, choosing brokerages, things like that, just things that most people don't really necessarily talk about, because most gurus, so to say, they will usually try to promote a product or something they're selling, whether it be some kind of platform or indicators or something. Basically there's something they're trying to sell you, so they create some kind of content to funnel into that, right? And that's fine. I have products that I sell as well, paid products, but ultimately my goal is to educate retail traders. As I've said in the past videos, if you haven't seen it before, I was formerly an institutional trader that then later transitioned to a retail trader, and it was a shift. And I noticed that there wasn't a lot of credible information out there for retail traders, right? Unless you were in the game or, worked in the market to some degree, there was a lot of bad information out there. And, you just didn't have the basis to be successful necessarily. You really had to hunt and peck. There was a lot of work involved. So I started creating content, and I even wrote a book to address those issues. So one of the things I had created for retail traders is this test called the penny test. And the penny test is basically, it tests several things at once, but generally one of the things that retail traders struggle with, particularly beginners, is patience and timing. And with the penny test, you take one penny and you place it in whatever hand you want, whether it be dominant or non-dominant hand. And the goal is to hold it in your hand for 4 hours or an hour. I challenge 4 hours, that's the goal. And to see if you are able to hold that penny for that entire duration in your hand. And it sounds silly, but basically what it's testing is, do you have the mental ability to hold that penny, to commit to that goal, and not cross the line and do something else. A very important characteristic of a retail trader. You have a goal in mind. This is what I'm going to do. I am not going to break away from this strategy. I'm not going to, break my own rules I've written for myself to be successful. The other part of it is timing, right? When you're placing trades or getting active in the market, you have to understand timing. When you did this test, did you just do it willy-nilly and just pick, and just start the test right then and there? Or just say, okay, when do I have 4 hours carved out, or an hour, however long you do the test, that I can do this penny test? Did I do it in the middle of my, I have to go pick up the kids, or there's some kind of, I have a meeting coming up? Did you really think about the timing so that you could be successful with the penny test? And these kinds of things, and it's built into this. And if you fail the penny test, basically you're not ready to trade yet. You should not even commit to using real money yet, because you don't understand the concept of timing, and you don't have the mental fortitude to control yourself. And if you can't do that, especially if you can't control yourself, that means you're gonna revenge trade. You're gonna make impulsive decisions. You're going to constantly jump around from strategy to strategy. Well, I got this message that says this is the new strategy that should be used to be successful, and this is a new strategy. And every day you're going to keep reinventing the wheel, when really you should have just stuck with your strategy, evaluated it, and adjusted fire. And and if you understand timing, you could have the best strategy in the world, but not know when you should be entering the market. If I have there's no such thing as a foolproof strategy, but theoretically, let's work in a vacuum here. If I had a foolproof strategy, but I executed it at the wrong time, it's not going to return anything for me, right? So it's like having the best bait in the world, the best fishing rod, and you're fishing in an empty lake. you're never going to catch any fish, right? So that is the point of the penny test, right? And that's why I say it, especially to beginner retail traders, like if you can't pass the penny test, you have no business trading until you do. And I know it sounds silly, but those are the concepts and those are the behaviors you have to master before you start committing money, because you're going to kill your capital, you're going to hurt your mental health, and you're not going to stick with it, and you're going to have a really bad start. And, beginner traders, you're going to make mistakes. It doesn't matter how perfect, it doesn't matter if you listen to the best advice in the world, you're going to make mistakes. And but if you can mitigate some of them and lessen that impact, the better it'll be for you mentally, for your capital, and for your long-term strategy. And so you can stay in the game to continue to learn and get better, because the number one rule is to preserve capital, and then profits come second, right? So that is something I really wanted to touch on. Like I said, it's a simple test, but I think it's really important. And again, I think that not enough people talk about these kinds of things. This is why I started this segment, to address some of the issues that aren't talked about and give advice on things that aren't really brought to the front. Just click on Google or click on YouTube or whatever, and you'll instantly find, do this one indicator, or you have to use this one algorithm or this one theory, and no one talks about anything before that. What about your market research? What about your mental fortitude? What about timing? What about these kinds of things that happen before the trade? Because trades, in this day and age, take milliseconds, right? So most of the work you do is actually before the trade, and all the work you do before the trade is not milliseconds. It's usually hours, right? You spend a lot of time preparing for this. You pick the brokerage, you set up the account, you've established your charts, you've done the market research, all these things, and that is not a millisecond. That is a lot of time that you've invested for a fraction of a second. So you really got to focus not so much on that fraction of a second that people try to sell you, but everything before that. And if you do that, that'll help you in the long run, and once you've mastered everything before that trade, then we can start evaluating how to place trades. And once you're in trade, what's the best practices, and then after the fact, right? So I think where a lot of people get hung up is everything before. And if more retail traders focused on this area first, mastered this, then this millisecond will count for you, more times than not, right? As long as you're winning trades at least 60% of the time, then you're winning overall, right? Now, of course, that depends on how much are you doing getting in profits? Are the 50% of the time that the 40% of the time you're losing, are you losing more money than you're winning in the 60% that you're winning, right? So make sure that that's balanced correctly as well. But that usually comes down to consistent trading style, right? If Monday you just, leverage your full position and you lose everything or lose a great deal, and then on Tuesday you only leverage, 2% of your position, but you win, and let's say you always leverage 2% when you win, but you always leverage a large position when you lose, then even if you had 60% of the winnings, it's going to be unbalanced, right? You're going to be losing, so it's not going to quite work out. But these are things to focus on, and I just want to touch on it. Hopefully this is helpful to some who are new to the space of trading. Even for those who have been trading consistently, it's good to have these refreshers and to talk about these things, because it's easy to get bad habits, especially when you're on a streak, whether winning or losing. And it's good to just sort of reset yourself and get back on. So hopefully it was helpful. Remember that trading is risky, And, you know, please practice the best habits. Take care.